gonna party, we're gonna rock. Here's what's showing at the Cinemark.
Welcome back to Matt's Movie Nights, where I recommend movies and we talk about them. Last time we delved into the Quatermass Trilogy, a franchise from Hammer Horror, the British, or from Hammer Studios, the British horror company. Although technically they made some stuff that wasn't horror. They're most well known for their horror. And in fact, Quatermass Experiments, the first film we watched, is one of the first horror movies they made. And if I have this right, it started as a TV show that was then edited down into a movie. I might be interested to see what they cut, because the ending feels a little abrupt. I won't lie about that. It feels like very suddenly it's just over. So I wonder if there's a little more build-up to it in the show, and they kind of cut that for the film adaptation, but I don't know, for what it is, I enjoyed it. Quatermass Experiments is the story of Dr. Quatermass, he's in charge of this British space program, and he sent these men up, and when the rocket came back, 2 of them were dead, and 1 of them was infected with something mysterious. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. Over time, it becomes apparent that it's not actually the last guy they sent up. It's an alien life form that is that can absorb the life essence of creatures, of any living creature, and adapt its physical characteristics. Because at some point in the movie, he absorbs a cactus and then kills someone with his cactus hand. And then, of course, you see him break into a zoo and he absorbs a lion. And then by the end of the film, he's just this hideous mass. Just like a blob on the ground. And it's like, you can even see the guy's cactus hand there. It doesn't look like that in the film. At no point do you actually see that in the film. That is exclusive to the poster. It's also a little weird that it's the Quatermass Experiments, and then they got a guy on the cover that's not Quatermass. That's not Quatermass, that's the villain of the movie. The English title was The Creeping Unknown, which is a little too similar to The Creeping Terror for my tastes. Although I think, when was this? 55. This would have been a year or 2 after The Creeping Terror, I think. Now, you might notice that in the title, it's Quatermass Experiments, which, first off, means that this title is worth a lot of points in Scrabble. They got a Q and an X in there, but there's no E in Experiments, and the reason they did that, from what I have read, is that this is the first movie the BBFC gave an X rating to. I have no earthly idea what this film did to warrant an X rating. This is not an X-rated film. Do not pick this up it's the British rated it X. No, this is not an X-rated film. This is a PG-rated film, tops. Right? People die, there's violence, but there's not any, gore on screen. There's certainly no nudity. So I have no earthly idea why this would be rated X, unless that means something a little less severe in Britain, or maybe that's complete bullshit. Maybe it did not receive an X rating, and they just did that for stylistic reasons. But what I have read is that they were advertising that this was the first X-rated movie, even though there is no reason for this film to have gotten an X rating ever, under any circumstance. Even under Britain's strictest censorship laws could not give this movie an X. Okay, this is a very tame movie. If this is an X, then Creeping Terror is also an X. It's kind of cute. On the back here it says Quatermass Extras. They've got some interesting extras on here. There's an interview with John Carpenter. But outside of the interesting special features, this Kino Lorber release lacks a little something to be desired. For one thing, it doesn't have subtitles, and it's like, this is on Blu-ray. This had to have come out in the 2010s, 2014. There is no reason in the 2010s you should not be making your movies without subtitles. There's no reason you should be releasing any Blu-ray without subtitles post-2010, okay? Put subtitles on your fucking movies. These are both Shout Factory releases. They have subtitles. Also, the menu is a static picture of the poster. And it's like, man, you guys put some nice extras in here, but you did not try very hard. Stars Brian Donlevy as Richard Quatermass, the Bernard Quatermass. I don't know where I got Richard from. Stars Brian Donlevy as Dr. Quatermass, and it's a little odd because it's a British film. It takes place in Britain, but Quatermass is an American. He's played by an American, and I do think that kind of works in the film. It does help him stand out a little, you know, foreign man in a foreign land. He's definitely, it makes sense that he is sort of at odds with some of his peers in this film, although, we'll get to it. But he does a really good job in this film. I got to admit, this was a rewatch for me. This was like I didn't like this the first time, but let's give it a second chance. This was my second chance to the Quatermass Experiments, and I did enjoy it a little more on my second viewing than I did the first time I watched it. I still feel like the ending was a little disappointing, but otherwise, it's a fun, it's an enjoyable movie. Lots of weird sci-fi stuff going on. It's a real treat. I enjoyed it. Jack Warner is in the film as well. Not one of the Warner brothers. Different person. Not one of the Warner brothers. Although, was this distributed? No, this was one of the Hammer movies that was handled by 20th Century Fox in America. So, yeah, this wasn't even a Warner Brothers release. They did most of the Hammer films, but there are a few that are Fox. Now that I'm thinking about it, that technically means Disney has the American rights to Quatermass Experiments. That might not be the case anymore, but it at least was when this was originally released. A few of them were also put out by Universal. I think more were put out by Universal than Fox. I didn't honestly know Fox put out that many. This was directed by Val Guest, apparently best known for The Day the Earth Caught Fire. I don't know that that's an incredible... I think he's probably better known for this. This has to be more popular than The Day the Earth Caught Fire, right? He also worked on the comedy film Casino Royale, not the official Casino Royale, the parody Casino Royale from the 60s, 70s? 67, okay. Overall, yeah, I would recommend the Quatermass Experiments, although, oddly, I would say the Quatermass trilogy is the one franchise I've seen that gets better with every movie. I think that is an exceptionally rare thing to happen. But Quatermass Experiments is decidedly my least favorite of the entire trilogy. So that ought to tell you where I stand on it. Quatermass 2, same director, same actors, same cast mostly, I think is a much more interesting film. Quatermass 2 is about this big, secret government experiment that's going on in this small town, and it's interfering with Quatermass's rocket launch, which is why he's getting involved. And like some of his men disappeared there, and he's like, yo, what's going on? What's up with this local, secret government thing? Well, it turns out it's an alien infestation. The aliens are taking over the minds of people, and they've constructed this whole secret thing to keep their infection plan a secret. So of course now it's up to like Quatermass and a bunch of people to come stop those aliens. Stop the alien infection. It's another week where we've got kind of zombies. It's like, well, okay, it's an alien infection, not like a zombie thing, but still, they're like zombies. They're infected. They shamble around, shambling corpses infected with something that makes them come to life. I would argue these are probably the least zombie-like kind of zombies we've looked at, but still, I would say it fits in the kind of zombie category. Honestly, what this reminds me most of is John Carpenter's They Live, because John Carpenter, of course, is a huge fan of the Quatermass trilogy. Like I said, they have an interview with him on this one. So he's a huge Quatermass fan, and I have to believe They Live was at least partially inspired by Quatermass 2. The two feel very similar. It's this like government conspiracy that is actually an alien conspiracy. Weirdly, though, John Carpenter is clearly going for something a lot more allegorical with They Live. They Live is clearly supposed to be much more like a criticism of capitalism, Reaganomics, the whole shebang. And yet, this film, I feel like, follows through with that idea a little better, because at the end of John Carpenter's movie, at the end of They Live, it's just, these two guys that run in and start kicking the aliens' ass. They're the only ones doing it. Where in this film, the local town forms like an angry mob and raids the secret government complex. It's like, that I think fits the themes of They Live a little better, like the working class uniting and overthrowing its overlords, So, props to Quatermass 2 for getting that right, where They Live kinda didn't do that. That said, I don't think Quatermass 2 is supposed to be like allegory for anything. It's just maybe there's some like Cold War paranoia to it, where it's like the government's doing secret shit, and the Russian army's doing secret shit, so it's like skepticism of all this like secret military stuff. Quatermass is decidedly like an anti-war type of guy that comes through a lot more in the final movie. But he's these stories. These are stories that are kind of against the war machine. So yeah, I think it's fair to say this is maybe a criticism of both sides during the Cold War. But I think much more it is a story about aliens infecting a small town, Like, that was probably, the Cold War stuff was probably on their minds while they were making this, but it is probably not what the story is supposed to be about. I do want to point out that on the back cover of this, it says, Professor Quatermass returns in this sequel to the Quatermass experiment with an E. There's not an E in that title. God, come on. Much like its predecessor, this also has an English title. An American title. Excuse me, the title's already kind of in English. I mean, it's a man's last name and the numeral 2. So I suppose that is pretty universal. But the American title is Enemy from Space. I don't know why it couldn't be... I guess Quatermass 1 wasn't called Quatermass 1, but I don't know why this isn't like The Creeping Unknown 2. I guess nothing really creeps in this movie, but... I don't know, it's a sequel to another movie. You're making it sound like a standalone film. Granted, I think it works as a standalone film. Like, the only overlap these two movies have is that they both have the same lead character. Quatermass is in both of these, but he's sort of I don't know, Sherlock Holmes type who just shows up in various stories. Indiana Jones type. He's always got something new going on, so you don't really need the context of previous films. Quatermass 2, it's a lot of fun. It's like proto They Live. It's They Live before They Live. I really enjoyed it. I liked this one a lot more than the first film. Which is a rare thing to say about a sequel. But if you want to talk about a film that I think is much better than Quatermass Experiments, Quatermass in the Pit. This is not really the third movie in the series. This is sort of a soft reboot of the series. Because it's a different actor playing Quatermass. It's from a different director, and it's got a bit of a different tone than the other movies. This one's a lot more cosmic horror than the other two. The other two, I guess, are kind of cosmic horror. They're definitely in that realm, but this is like hard cosmic horror. This is like weird ass Lovecraft shit. Basically, in this film, they find like a spaceship buried. They're digging out a place to have a train tunnel run through. And they discover this giant metal thing, and at first they think it's a bomb, and then slowly over time they dig out more of it, and they're like, wait, it's a spaceship! And so Quatermass actually just so happens to be there. He's not even like invited there. He's working with this general, and they've called the general in because he's an expert at defusing bombs from World War. They think it's an unexploded German bomb from World War II. No one can seem to crack into it though. It's like a hard metallic plastic. It doesn't want to melt. It doesn't want to do anything. But then all of a sudden it just cracks open on its own, of its own accord, and they find like these alien bodies in there. And what's more, there seem to be like the spirits of these aliens inhabiting the area, because apparently there were reports in this area from the past that there were like ghosts and demons and shit, and it turns out it's all the aliens. The ending goes so fucking buck wild. It's like borderline Ancient Aliens. Not even borderline. I think it's over the line on Ancient Aliens. Because it's like these aliens from Mars. Aliens from Mars, like, they were, like, always at war with each other and always killing each other and always trying to purify their race. And then they came to Earth to try to purify the human race. And since then, their energies are being mistaken for, like, demons and ghosts and shit. And, like, occult symbology is apparently actually alien symbology. And the people are summoning aliens. And it ends with them, like, releasing this alien spirit from the ground who is the devil. It's the devil. They're just like, oh yeah, Satan, the devil, he's a fucking alien from like 6 million years ago. So, yeah, there's that. That's sort of an odd direction for this movie to go. Ancient Aliens-esque. But I don't know, man. I'm here for it in a movie. When it's a movie and it is explicitly under the context of fiction, I'm like, yeah, alright, that's an interesting direction to go. The Ancient Aliens, their problem is they're claiming it's real. Or, honestly, they're not even claiming it's real. They're just kind of going like, yo, what if, man? What if aliens? What if it was aliens the whole time? Okay, I gotta correct something I said earlier. I said Quatermass Experiments was edited down from a TV show. That's not true. It was written as a TV show, and then they adapted the TV show into a film, but the movie is entirely new footage. It is not edited from the TV show. It is separate from the TV show. The TV show's got someone else playing Quatermass. And that's kind of a weird way to do it, though, since they were all mini-series anyways. It's odd to me that they would take a mini-series and then just remake it as a movie. Well, whatever. My point was, the guy who originally wrote Quatermass doesn't really like the first two films, and he likes this one a lot more, and at least part of the reason why is that Quatermass is British. Which, I don't know, that's some Brit-ass shit right there. Like, oh, I don't like those movies. Quatermass is American. I don't want an American in my movie. He does a good job. Hold on. Brian Donlevy. He does a good job as Quatermass. He's a good Quatermass. I like the guy in this one, too. Andrew Keir. Andrew Keir plays Quatermass in this film. Looking at it, that might be Andrew Keir. Andrew Keir, one of the two. He's in Cleopatra, he's in A Night to Remember. He's a decently prolific British actor. One of those guys, the type of guy who would be Quatermass, wouldn't he? I'll be honest, I think I kind of liked the American a little better. I like this movie better, and so I am inclined to maybe say he's better in this movie, but I think Quatermass as a character works better in the first two. Because he stands out. He stands apart from the rest of the cast. That's why him being an American kind of works. And he doesn't have to be American, but just give him like something to make him stand out a little, stand apart from his peers. He's good in this. Andrew Keir, whatever, whichever. He's good in this, but he kind of, I don't know, he's just like an old British doctor, which I guess is what Quatermass is supposed to be, but he's so much more interesting when he's like this bold, interesting hero. But I gotta say, I like this film better, and maybe part of it is that they managed to make a satanic sci-fi horror movie. I like that. I like all the weird occult elements to this film. That's a lot of fun. I always enjoy the wild places this movie goes. This movie is fucking wild, way crazier than the others. Like, the first one is sort of this slow, methodical, generic horror movie where it's like, oh, this person got killed, oh, this person got killed, oh, this person got killed, and along the way, the main character, he's getting closer and closer until finally he catches the killer. The second one is this, like, crazy conspiracy movie where a whole village has to team up to overthrow these aliens. And then the third movie is this, like, let's defeat Satan, who is actually an alien movie. Brilliant. It's, what do I say? I love it. I love Quatermass in the Pit. Big fan. If you only watch one of these movies, make it Quatermass in the Pit. Now, the English title was 5 million I said the English title again. It's actually specifically not the English title. It's the American title. The American title is 5 million years to Earth, which is not, first off, incredibly reminiscent of 20 million miles to Earth. So I almost wonder if they weren't trying to cash in on that one. Like, I assume the Creeping Unknown was not trying to cash in on the Creeping Terror. And, Enemy... What was it? Enemy from Space. That's, like, one of the most generic titles you could give a movie. That's like, oh, it came from outer space. There's 1,000 movies about it's coming from space, or the thing from outer space. Like, come on, you gotta be a little more specific than that. 5 million miles to Earth doesn't make a lot of sense, because it's not like It's not like it took them 5 million years to get to Earth. They landed on Earth 5 million years ago. So, what? This doesn't say who put this one out in America, so I don't know who to pin that one on. I'm gonna blame Disney. Fuck you, Disney, for what you've done to Quatermass and the Pit. But yes, of the three, Quatermass and the Pit is the one to watch. It's my favorite of the three. Of the rare trilogy that gets better with every movie. Right? First one, good but generic. Second one, really fun, really good. Third one, brilliant. Last time I asked what your favorite Killer Kid movie was. Jason V6 says, I don't think I've seen any of the Killer Kid movies. I'm not qualified to answer anything but Home Alone. Okay. Random Reviews says The Children, best movie here. Although that sounds like he's just picking his favorite of the three. Personally, I might go The Bad Seed. I really liked okay, hold on. Unless we're counting The Omen as a Killer Kid movie, because it kinda arguably is. There is a kid, he causes people to die, but he doesn't murder anyone. He uses his supernatural powers to kill them. So depending on where you stand on The Omen, The Bad Seed is probably my favorite Killer Kid movie. Although I have heard very good things about Mikey. I would love to watch Mikey. So I forgot to ask a question when I recorded this. So your question this week is, what's a British horror movie, like a classic British horror movie, talking like 50s, 60s, 70s, that's from someone other than Hammer? You know, no Hammer horror movies. Favorite British horror movie from that era that wasn't Hammer. So tonight, it's Friday the 13th, so I gotta do a satanic triple feature. And as long as we're cleaning out Hammer horror movies, they got some great satanic horror, so we're gonna take a look at those. Starting off with the classic, The Devil Rides Out. Following that, we're watching a British film, but not a Hammer horror film technically, Cry of the Banshee. I didn't have a third satanic Hammer horror movie for this. I could have done Satanic Rites of Dracula, but I'm not a huge fan of that film. Plus, I've already seen it, and I like the second film to be something I haven't seen. And I haven't seen Cry of the Banshee, so that's going to be number 2 for the night. And we're going to end on my favorite Hammer horror movie, To the Devil a Daughter. That's gonna be my 3 movies for next time. My British satanic horror triple feature. Until then, happy Friday the 13th.